I mean, I was never like suicidal, but just all those negative feelings and pain, not waking up sometimes, I felt like was better than getting out of the shower.
You are not alone, I'll support you through. You don't have to run, you can always overcome everything that you've been through. Share your story here and lay down your fears. We all hear your pain and there's only love to gain. You can get it all right here.
Welcome to Good Things from the Couch. I am your host, Elizabeth Davies. I am a mental health counselor and author. And today I have a special guest with me, Michelle, who first saw me for counseling in 2012. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having me.
Now, can you believe it's already been 9 years since you started counseling with me?
It has been quite some time, that is for sure. It makes me feel a little bit older, but I mean, time is good.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being willing to come on the show and share your story. Today, our topic is about hurt. When you very first started seeing me in 2012, you came into counseling to handle your anger, your rage, and deal with hurt better. Your other goal was to let go of guilt and learn how to forgive yourself for not being honest with your partner and to forgive him for not wanting to be with you as a partner. He wanted to be a dad with you. You had 2 young children when you first started seeing me. You had a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old, and very difficult situation. And then your other goal was to rebuild your self-esteem, and then your last goal was to learn how to accept things that you cannot change.
So there was a lot of goals.
There was a lot of goals. So would you be
not in a good place?
Right. So would you be willing to share with our audience a little bit about that when you very first came into counseling? What prompted you to come in and what was going on, and share about that?
Well, I think, a couple of weeks prior to that, my partner at the time, the father of my children, we had split. It had been a very rocky split. I had to leave. We were stationed in a different state, and so I came back to my home state and moved in with my mom, which was a difficult situation. I was older at the time. I wasn't like a young kid. I was late 20s with 2 daughters, and I had a baby, and then I had a toddler. I guess that's 3-year-old's a toddler at that point, and I had to start over. I was just really going through I was not functional. I was just not functioning as a good person. My emotions and my hurt and my disappointment and all of these negative feelings were just kind of consuming me. I mean, I wasn't an abusive person, but I was definitely seeing how it was affecting me in my everyday life, me as a mother, or causing me not to even want to do those things, not to want to be a mom, or, not involved, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very disconnected. And it just wasn't, I knew that I had to fix these things, and it wasn't, my partner couldn't fix it, because if I went back with him, we'd have the same issues. Looking back now, I see these things, in this perspective. If we were to get back together, it would not have made things better. It would have made things worse. There would have been, nothing would have been fixed. So I had to fix me, and I had to fix what was going on internally. And that's a lot of work. And that's why I came to see you.
And maybe we can also let the audience know, at the time when you had to move back to your home state with your mom, I remember you telling me back then that you didn't really feel like you felt like you had to earn your mom's love. You felt like she liked your brother or loved your brother and sister more than you. So it wasn't like you were moving home to a mom where you felt like, oh, it's so welcome. Thank goodness my daughter's home.
No, that was horrible. That was why, it was difficult to move back with my mom, because there was a great deal of favoritism. And so having to grow up, 28 years of that, that's how old I was at the time, and then bringing my family, my children and I, back to the situation, it was just it was just like another layer of hurt, anger, and resentment, and all these things that, on top of my current situation, just a more feeling of rejection and, all these ugly feelings. So it was really, really difficult. Really, really difficult. I mean, I don't think difficult is not even the right word, because it was like difficult times 10.
Yes.
It was just, and not only did I have to deal with situations, but I had to deal with a lot of past situations.
Yes.
And it all came to head. It was very ugly.
Yes. So now you're reeling from hurt from having to leave and move out on the father of your children, John, right?
Yep.
Who I remember so much hurt, and the hurt was that, why does he want to be a parent to our children, but he doesn't want to be a partner to me and be a family with me, which is just so hurtful. And then you move home.
It was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then you move home.
Because what I wanted in life, what I was searching for, was a family.
Yes.
And to make a family.
Yes.
And, John and I had kids unplanned, and we tried to make the right choice, which was to make a family. So I put all of my, I guess, eggs in that basket, and when it didn't work out, it was like, well, why? Why doesn't it work?
Right.
It was it's like putting more pain and effort into something, and then the rejection, which is what I was dealing with, as a child.
Yes.
So it was very much a replay of scenarios. I mean, dealing with all these things at a much older age with now children as a mom, and experiencing all of these extra pressures and responsibilities, and it was very, I don't know. I look back and I'm like, how did I survive?
How did you get through that, right? You moved from hurt in this relationship to again having to face your childhood issues of feeling in an environment that isn't supportive, that you had distant relationships in your family too. So you're not even moving into a supportive environment where you feel like you could really heal. No. So thank goodness.
Very isolated feeling. I remember moving back and with my mom and laying in bed and crying about it, and she goes, well, if you want to go back, I'll just send you back.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, it was, and then that was kind of like, okay, so we're still not, I'm hurting from scenario A, and then, the current scenario of what's going on, and then the environment that I was raised in, and the scenario that caused a lot of the hurt is still very, very real, very active.
Yes.
So again, it was very isolating. So on top of all the anger, the hurt, the pain, the mourning, the disappointment, all that negative, I now feel very isolated in my, my home, if you will.
I remember you telling me, and I put this in quotes when I was looking through the chart before our podcast today, you said, I don't know how to handle hurt at all. I don't know if you remember saying that to me. Right.
I did. Oh, I mean, going back, thinking I don't. I didn't.
Right.
I did. I definitely did not know.
No.
And I say don't because I'm thinking of who I was in that moment.
Yes.
I remember this very vividly. You don't know. You don't know how to handle hurt. And what it comes out as, instead of saying, hey, I'm hurt, this hurt my feelings, it comes out as anger.
Yes.
And it comes out as because you've been hurt so much that now being hurt again is just enriching. Because at least for me and my life was, I was hurt, and then I was told that my hurt feelings were wrong. Nope, you're being over dramatic. Oh, you're over exaggerating. Oh, you're just being dramatic. No, or you're overly sensitive. That was another thing. You're so overly sensitive, get over it. You're gonna, and so everything that I felt was just, degraded, disrespected, downplayed. No, what happened, well, your brother, for example, your brother, I would tell my mom, hey, I would get in trouble for, being a little sister and hitting my brother or whatever. Well, why'd you hit him? Because he was doing this. Well, that was wrong for you to react that way, but it wasn't wrong for his behavior. So when you're constantly told as a child, or even as an adult, I guess, still, that your feelings are wrong and you should just get over it. You know, you're completely disrespected. So your feelings become almost shameful, and you have no self-esteem. Like, there's nobody building you up and saying, okay, yeah, I can understand why that bothered you. You know, you can't behave that way. That's absolutely wrong. And the way you behaved it, we got to teach you other ways. But, you know, we got to also deal with the source, which, you know, was the trigger to begin with, was your brother was, you know, antagonizing you, and nobody dealt with that. So when you grow up with constantly being antagonized and then told that you're wrong for your reaction, you know, being hurt later in life in whatever way is just, it's not in your concept of understanding. You go to instant defense mode. You go to instant, you know, you want to defend yourself. This is why I did this. This is why it's not processed well. And that's, you know, what I was dealing with.
And more anger and rage. And don't you think sometimes parents tell kids, like, oh, you're overreacting? Because honestly, parents don't know how to deal with deep hurt either. Like, not only do your children not know how to deal with deep hurt, but sometimes parents don't know what to do with it when someone's deeply hurt. And so today is a great opportunity to talk about how do we deal with deep hurt without taking our hurt out on others. You know how you've probably heard that statement, like, hurting people hurt other people, which just basically means if there's hurt inside of me, then I'm going to turn around, like you said, with anger or rage, right? There's two reasons we have anger. One, hurt, unjust feeling. 2, being treated unfairly, and 2, control. Like, we're not able to control situation or people. It didn't go the way we think is the right way for it to go. So if you have a control issue, you're going to have an anger issue. And if you've been hurt, it's likely to have an anger issue. So then here you come into the relationship, and now you're trying to co-parent with John, the father of your children, and you're trying to co-parent with someone who has deeply, deeply hurt you and isn't going to validate that they've hurt you. And now more anger comes out, and more rage, and more hurt comes out, and then now you're in this snowball effect of more hurt, hurting him because you're hurt, him hurting you, and then here we go into this huge cycle of hurt and hurting more and hurting more. So
and then that trickles down to your children. And they start to see things. And, you know, I guess, like, you know, just a little backup, I had left, you know, my family in the state that I'm from, and got away from it. So when I came back and being separated from all the stuff, I really saw even more, I guess I don't say validated my original feelings about my mom or dad, or so now I was, you know, an older adult with 2 children, taking my life experiences even before therapy and trying to, you know, make sure I didn't treat my daughters the way that I was treated, you know, with my siblings, and then being forced to, you know, be confronted or seeing it again. You know, there is a lot of anger and a lot of hurt, and it really opens your eyes if you're willing to allow those, I guess, I don't know, signs from, you know, God or whatever. So when we started, when, you know, John and I split, and I started seeing patterns, and I started recognizing things that I didn't like, or I was more aware, because I wanted to be a better mom and have better relationships with my children, and then having better relationships than I had with my siblings. I need to fix this, and I don't know how to fix this on my own. So, and there's all these really painful feelings right now, and it's causing me to not be a very highly functional person. So I need help. So, I mean, the patterns, and eventually, I feel like when you're ready, or when you're hurt, I don't know, maybe I was just hurt enough and ready to come get help. You know, because I just recognized that this was just really all the anger, the patterns, the bad behavior, the toxic behavior, the toxic communication with my ex and I at the time, and just how ugly it was. And then my 3-year-old would hear that, and then I just look on her face, and it was like, oh, this is so bad. This is just makes everything even more heartbreaking. Now there's children involved that don't have control because they're kids, and the parents that have the control are messing everything up.
They're not in control.
No.
So let's talk about now, 9 years later. Okay, now your kids are 9 years older, right? They're 11 and 9?
9.
Okay.
Yep, 11 years old to 9.
And the father of your children has now moved to the state that you're in to co-parent, because that's another thing. A lot of people go through this, right? Our audience knows this, where they're in a situation, whether it's through divorce or a split up or a breakup of family, now they still have to co-parent. So you still have to be in a relationship with this.
You have to co-parent with people that you don't like necessarily.
Right, or that deeply hurt you, or that you don't feel loved by. Right.
Or appreciated or respected. That was another thing. The respect and the appreciation was definitely lacking.
Yep.
And, in my particular situation, as you know, he was living out of state and I was living in state. So I was doing everything and he was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the communication would be so disrespectful and so unappreciative and so just I don't know. It was not, it was just so ugly. That's really the only way that it was just an ugly on both sides, not just him, me as well, because I was so angry, and of course he was angry at me. So, it was pretty bad. It was very tough. And like I say these words, I'm like, tough does not really describe it. But
overwhelming, right? Overwhelming to the point.
It was almost unbearable.
Yeah.
There were times that, and this is just to say, 9 years ago, where I would, wake up in the morning and be like, if I didn't wake up today, I would be okay. I'd be sad. I was sad. But at the same time, the pain, the internal pain was so bad that if not waking up, I knew my daughters had a father that was functional and capable. I was never suicidal, but just all those negative feelings and pain, not waking up sometimes I felt was better than getting up, showering. If I didn't wake up today, would that be better for the girls? Would that be better for everybody involved? Getting the kids to daycare, me getting to work, trying to function, trying to do my job, come home, be a mom, and then do it all over again.
Yeah.
That was 9 years ago.
With very little support, by the way.
Very little to no. And actually, my mom, if you remember correctly, my mom and I got into a huge fight over my little sister at the time, and she kicked us out.
Yep. And now you had to go live with your dad, who was an alcoholic at the time.
That was housing my drug addict brother.
Right.
And so it was just, I literally, and then, John and I were in the middle of a custody battle, so it was I was just getting hit from all sides, every way.
Yes.
So
moving from one bad situation to a worse situation. It's just...
it was just the hit, and honestly, again, it was okay. I wouldn't feel anything anymore. So maybe that would be. Not that I ever had any suicidal tendencies or any type of plans. That was never, ever. But if I just, that was just how bad it was to give the audience an understanding.
Yes.
This, things can get really, really bad, but they can also get really, 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 really good.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, of what the catalyst was while you were in counseling with me, and I was definitely trying to support you. I could hear your hurt, and I could understand why you were hurt, because I could imagine what it would feel like to, like you said, sacrifice your life for someone to have a family, and then they say, well, I want to be a father over here to the kids, but I don't want anything to do with being a partner with you.
Yeah.
And then you start to think that thought, what's wrong with me? Why can you love them and not love me? Same when we talked, I wrote a... Huh?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I wrote a note about that, right? Childhood wound. Why doesn't mom love me, but she loves my siblings? Why doesn't John love me, but he loves my girls? Right?
And that's what it played out to. It was definitely I think even before I started seeing you, I was trying to read self-help and all this stuff, all these things. And, John had another daughter from a previous relationship, and the favoritism and just a lot of things I was pinpointing, almost characterizing, okay, John is my mom, his daughter is my older brother, there were so many things that I was and just the behavior of it, it really started to make sense that I had taken pain from my childhood that I probably buried deep down inside, or just really, I guess, I don't say accepted, because I still don't accept it. Like, it's just, I just, pain, the scenario that I had lived with became my adult. And I was trying to get away from it. Like, I left the house, I left home, I moved out when I was 18. Like, but I kept falling into it.
Yes, because we can't really leave ourselves. What we come with inside of ourselves goes to the next relationship, which is true what you're saying. We literally go ahead and we marry what's familial, or we get in a relationship that's familiar, which means like the same pain I experienced in my childhood, that same dynamic. Now I picked a partner, and now I'm reliving the same similar dynamics in an adult relationship, because you bring yourself everywhere you go. Running away to another state, avoiding your parents, all this isn't going to make it go away, because then it's just it all comes up inside of you until it's healed. So how do we heal? This is the big question for today, How do we heal from hurt? How did we heal that hurt? How did you heal a lot of that hurt?
We had to do inner child therapy.
Yes.
Which was nothing. I was like, never, I never heard about that at all. And then when I talked about it together, I was like, okay, we'll try it. I think at the time I thought it was kind of crazy, but I was so desperate. I'm like, I'll do whatever. Just whatever, we'll fix this. So we did inner child therapy. I still have the book. I still have all of it, like the journaling, and you journal with, I know this, like, to the audience, like, you journal with your left hand. Do you remember that?
I do.
I was writing with my non-dominant hand, so it was more childlike, and then healing, and then really becoming if I'm saying this correctly, or if I'm not, correct me, that again, this was 9 years ago, you become the parent to your inner child.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Yes, and I still use those techniques today, because pain doesn't, it's like, I don't know, like, the pain is gone, but the scar is there.
Right.
So when things start to get weird again, I'm like, no, Kristen, like, we don't backslide, and we know what this is, we recognize what this is, and we handle it, it's handled. So I get to parent myself, and when my inner child is wounded or starts to feel triggered, or whatever the issue is, and I don't know if triggered's the right word, but
not loved, right? That was the trigger, not feeling loved or liked. Why does my mom
not feeling validated, not feeling respected, not feeling appreciated, all those things that every child needs, every child needs. And I know this now, having older children, or I guess not older, but they are now not 8 months and 3. They're much older to where they can verbalize these things. And I see how giving them all these gifts have molded them to who they are compared to where I was at their age.
Yes.
But I do, like, in relationships, even as an adult, if whether it's an intimate relationship, a friendship, my relationship with my parents, my siblings, there's strong boundaries, because I have to parent my inner child, because they did not. And so now I don't allow that kind of behavior. And when I see it, I set a boundary, and if that boundary is disrespected, then I, kind of break away from that. I just kind of keep my distance, because you have to. I want to choose to be healthy. I don't want to be angry, and I don't want to be any of these negative feelings. I've already been there. I've already done that. And so the best way for me to heal from that was to not only, I want to say, accept the pain and what happened, but then start to forgive the pain, because that's a major important part, is that
in the healing,
to get through it all. That was housing my drug addict brother,
right?
And so it was just, I literally, and then, John and I were in the middle of a custody battle, so it was like I was just getting hit from all sides. And we woke up every day, and I had to say to myself, as disgruntled at first as I was about doing this, was I unconditionally forgave Chris. Oh, crap.
Right, you unconditionally forgive John for everything he said and did to you. So that's a good thing, and maybe we should let the audience know, it sounds like you described it pretty well, but inner child work, which is a lot of things people haven't heard of, is like I would say to you, okay, Michelle, I want you to get out all these pictures of yourself when you were a little girl, when you were 3, 4, 5, when you felt unloved, and you, the adult you, is going to say to the picture of this little child of yourself, I unconditionally love you. I'm sorry your mommy didn't, love you like your siblings. I'm sorry you felt like you had to earn your mommy's love. And you're going to say everything to these pictures of yourself that you really wanted to hear from that parent, so that you heal that relationship. And it's almost like now you become, like you said, the mother, the loving mother, meeting all the needs that the little wounded child didn't get met. And now you're the protector, since your mom didn't protect you. Now you're the person that sets up boundaries when other people disrespect you, since your mom didn't set boundaries for, So it's like you become that person, which does a lot of healing. And then the second component in healing hurt is exactly what you said. We have to be willing to forgive. Not because the person deserves forgiveness, okay? And this is key. So many times we don't forgive because what happened to us was wrong. It wasn't right what they did to us. It wasn't okay. It wasn't just, okay? So we don't forgive people because they deserve forgiveness. We forgive people because we don't want to hold the hurt, because as long as we're holding the hurt, we're going to be prone to, like you said, the depression, the non-functioning. But even bigger than that, when we have hurt inside of us, we're going to turn around and hurt our children, hurt our partner, hurt our parent, hurt our best friend. All these relationships we're in, we're just going to project that hurt out onto them and damage even more relationships. Right?
And it is very evident, especially, absolutely. And that was, I remember the picture, when you talked about the picture thing, I remember sitting in, at the time, my dad's backyard, because I, was kicked out of my mom's house because of things. But I remember going through these pictures and looking at it, and I just sobbed like a little girl.
Yes.
I sobbed as like my little inner child came out, and I was crying so. And it wasn't just like, it was like ugly cry times 100 and not going everywhere and all the grossness. And then and I felt so relieved because finally, I felt like, okay, like, guess what? I love me. Like you start to give yourself what you need. And for so long you were looking for other things. And then once I got there, I was more willing to forgive, because as I started to feel better about internally, I realized, like, the anger started going away, the hurt started going away. Like, it's still there. Don't get me wrong, but it was at a different dynamic. And so then the forgiveness part, like, you have to forgive. Like, yes, you were wrong. Yes, it wasn't fair. Yes, it was messed up, and you were damaged by it. But at the same time, carrying around all that and being unforgiving is what's part of the problem. Yes. But again, a lot of people, I don't think, understand or even know how to forgive.
That's right.
And I definitely didn't. I did not know how to forgive. I did not know, because nobody taught me how to forgive. And so as an adult, I did not know. So not only did I have to do the inner child therapy, but I had to learn forgiveness.
Yes.
Not just forgiveness, but unconditional forgiveness, which is even, to me, I was like looking at you like, what? I have to, are you, what do you mean there's no conditions on this? Nope, absolutely not. And I was like, I just remember like, no, that's not how this works. But it is how this works.
It is how it works if you want to heal. It is how it works if you want to heal.
Right.
And to let the audience know, like you said, a lot of us don't know how to forgive, okay? And everyone I've ever given the inner child work to, because like most people have had hurt, like you and I said before they ever leave their childhood and become an adult, they have hurt in their home, whether they're physically abused, emotionally abused, abandoned through a divorce, neglected, addictions, all the different reasons children don't get their needs met. But you're right. I taught you how every time you have that thought of all the terrible things John said to you, did to you, not feeling loved by him, I want you to say to that thought, I unconditionally forgive John for not loving me. I unconditionally forgive John for...
Or my mother.
Yes.
And not
or my mother.
My mom, which was probably one of the main, one of obviously the main causes.
Yeah.
So it does. It is. So you and again, and I mean, pain is difficult because pain comes out in so many different ways. It comes out in depression. It comes out in rage. It comes out in just anger. It comes out in negative relationships. But pain is very, from what I experienced, very much, it morphs into many different things. So you have to really the healing part comes, it's an amazing situation. Being so far past that now, 9 years later, it was worth every single tough day that I had to go through to heal. But healing and learning these things are so important, because as you continue, as you live your life, you revisit situations that are very similar.
Yes.
And so now when I experience those situations, or those people that they've chosen not to change, I don't get wrapped up into the same cycle of toxic behavior. I get to, now that I'm healed, and now that I have forgiven, and now that I have made very clear boundaries for me, I get to live my life without carrying all that anger, rage, depression, toxic behavior, toxic interaction. I don't do that anymore. I literally do not do that. If you do not want to set my boundaries if you don't want to respect the boundaries that I've set because I need to keep myself safe or whatever, guess what? We just don't engage in a way to where you get the chance to violate those.
Right.
And that's very powerful. And that's
Very
much
powerful.
keeps you and a child, yourself, your mental, your spiritual, your emotional health, maintained at a higher level.
Yes. And I remember you saying to me, after the healing, I remember you saying to me, it doesn't matter if John hurts me again, because I'm just going to turn around and forgive him. And I remember thinking at that moment, wow, she has it mastered. Okay, which leads...
We do. And I mean, 9 years later, John and I are really, really good friends. Now, when our daughters are doing whatever, sport or school activity, we show up, we cheer them on. And also when they don't, aren't doing the right thing, I'm like, hey, guess what? I came down into this, and we co-parent like there's no, like a united front. We are very much on the same page.
Awesome.
If there is an issue, I mean, don't get me wrong, we have had our disagreements, and we have sometimes gotten into a little scuffle, but we don't let that break us. We just fix that, and we apologize if we need to apologize for whatever, and we move on. We don't, it's not, I mean, it's as perfect as it's going to get, I guess, because, I mean, no one's ever, I want to say, like, no relationship is ever, like, perfect. But I mean, he still aggravates me at times because of whatever reason. But, I mean, it's small things. It's it's small things. It's very, very small things in the grand scheme of raising children and two separate homes and trying to maintain healthy co-parenting. And, I would say that, like, we genuinely respect each other, like each other as people, feel that we're, friends to each other, and kind of freaks our kids out because they know they can't play us. Like, there is no drama between our homes.
Isn't that amazing that it's come to that? Did you ever think in 2012 that 9 years later you'd be great friends, getting along fine, and all the hurt would be gone?
I thought he was just going to disappear. I thought he was just going to disappear. Like, I was hoping he would just disappear and I would just be the single mom for life. I mean, that's literally, like, as angry, it was much easier for him just to go away. Like, because if he was gone, then maybe my anger would be gone. Maybe the pain would be gone if he was gone, but that was not the case, which I'm glad he wasn't. Like, I'm very...
Because your kids are better off with their dad in their life, right? Your kids are...
They are. I don't want them... I don't want them to have issues with me or him, or, you hear about she has daddy issues. Like, I don't want that. But I want my children to have a very healthy relationship with their dad. I want them to have a very healthy relationship with me. And the only way that was going to happen was for us to have a healthy co-parenting relationship, because our relationship plays a major role in our children's minds.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, children don't understand if it's toxic until they're grown-up adults that have their own toxic issues and the damage is done.
That's true. So so now your children get to be, now just like you were in your family and you didn't feel loved and you left that relationship and went out of state and then relived it with another partner because it wasn't healed. Now your children get a different childhood because you've healed all your hurt, and now you do co-parent in a healthy way with their father. So now they get to learn and have role model to them what a healthy relationship is and how to feel loved by both parents, which is just awesome, because now that's going to be their dynamic. That they're going to attract.
Yeah, exactly. And they do. And I mean, like, I have a current partner, and, he and John are actually really good friends. They text each other. They talk when I'm busy. They figure out the stuff with the kids, and I'm just like, okay, what's going on? I mean, and so my two, our daughters have two men that get to show them healthy relationships and healthy co-parenting and what two dads are supposed to look like, and and how they're supposed to act. And I mean, so they really have three parents total that are very much involved, but we all very well get along. I mean, again, if anyone's getting mad at anybody, or not mad, but like if it's, John and I are the, ones that, but we handle it. We handle it, and the children see that. Like, okay, mom and dad got it, but they're fine, and then we're back on track. It's not anger, rage, and just crazy, mean, vomit, throwing names at each other. It's just none of that stuff. I mean, we have very, very respectful, and we appreciate each other. We very much appreciate each other, and
all of that happened. And all of that happened because of healing the pain. And then the third part I want to bring up about healing pain: one, like you said, inner child work to heal that. Two, radical forgiveness, unconditional forgiveness every time you have the thought of all that they've done wrong. The third thing, which is key, is what heals all emotional pain, is learning how to unconditionally love yourself instead of expecting John to love you, instead of expecting your mom to love you, instead of expecting other people to love you. You're saying, regardless if these people who I think should love me don't, I am going to learn how to unconditionally love myself. Right? And that also builds the self-esteem. So many times, and I know many listeners are relating to this, so many times we get into relationships and we expect our partner to love us, or we grow up in a home and we just expect our parents to love us, or we expect our siblings to love us, okay? And we aren't the source of love, and so that doesn't happen all the time. We all know this. There's many clients I've worked with who didn't feel loved by their parents. They didn't feel loved by their partners. They sometimes don't even feel loved by their adult children. And so then the key is, how do I turn around and learn how to unconditionally love myself, so even if people don't love me back, I don't feel devastated by it, and my self-esteem isn't damaged from it.
Yes, that was another thing, and I feel like when I learned that, I became able to walk into I was able to love myself and then be healthier in every relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's work, and then intimate relationships. Like there's a lot of relationships that well, not a lot, let me take that back. There's many relationships that I had, engaged in maybe just for a month or two or three or whatever, and then I was like, oh wait, this is not good for me. So instead of, because I loved myself, I knew what I wanted, what I needed, I loved myself, and so when the person wasn't doing what I needed or meeting my needs or respecting boundaries, I didn't try to do things to win them to do those things. Like, I think that's what women or men or whoever, they don't love me, and I want them to love me, because if they change, it's because they love me.
Yes.
It's the ultimate, I guess, I guess.
Well, it's like a delusion almost,
for me,
right? Isn't it? That we think that, if they really love me, they'll change. Or if I change, maybe they'll really love me. And it's like, no, we're not the source of love, so that's not going to happen. They're going to be themselves, you're going to be yourself, and if you want to change, you can change individually. So what did you learn on how to love yourself? Let the audience know, because you can say, how do you love yourself? And so many people struggle with this. We know this. So many people struggle with low self-esteem. How do we learn how to love ourselves unconditionally?
How do you learn? Okay, well, how do you learn? Well, you have to be forgiving. You have to have grace for yourself. You have to do, how I picture it is, and this is obviously from working with you, is that doing inner child work, I learned what I needed. I needed to feel accepted. I needed to accept myself. I needed to feel forgiveness. I needed to forgive myself. I needed to feel that, my feelings were respected, so I had to respect my own feelings. A lot of people violate those things of themselves, and that causes obviously it causes issues. So all of the things that I was trying to get from other people, okay, if he loves me, he'll respect this boundary. No, I love me, I respect that boundary. If you don't, then you're done. Like, setting those particular parameters, and then just self-care. Like, I remember I did everything for everybody and did not do anything for myself.
Yes.
Just little things like self-care were where I felt a little rejuvenated. I mean, whether I was just like going to the gym or getting my nails done or buying an outfit. I mean, I felt so guilty for doing those things because it wasn't about other people.
Right.
I mean, I really grew up in a home where, you know, it was, I mean, again, my mom, I remember, I helped my best friend at the time. Her mother has like crippling arthritis, and I like did the floors for her. And I remember telling my mom, like, yeah, Mom, I helped, you know, so-and-so's floors. Like, it's been like a couple of weeks. And she looked at me and goes, well, why don't you do that for me? And it was like, and so, you know, anything that I did for anybody else or for myself and that I felt good about became like guilt. I felt guilty. So I had to really, as an adult, change that thought process. It's changing your thought process, so that you feel good.
You're not looking to other.
You feel good,
and you're not looking to other people to validate that what you did was good and kind. You know in yourself.
Good.
Yes,
I felt good.
Yes.
I know what I did was good. I felt good, and you don't have the power to take that away. Like, again, I would do things, and I would say, you know, expect for somebody else to be proud of it, and then when that wasn't happen, I was like, well, no, but I'm proud of it.
Good.
So just recognizing yourself, and like, you don't need, and that's a hard lesson to learn, and I hope I'm, you know, presenting it well. But you know, now I'm kind of have that, I guess, I don't want to say don't give, you know, a crap attitude, but I did this. Well, why? I don't know. I mean, like, I do what I know is right for me, for my loved ones, for my children, for my family, and whomever has issues with that, that is, again, that's their feelings. I'm not responsible for their feelings. I'm not responsible, and I'm sure as heck not looking for the, you know, being praised or, you know, it's about being self-reliant.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
That is, and that's the key word, self-reliant. Do you remember me asking you during our counseling sessions when we were rebuilding the self-esteem and I was trying to teach you how to love yourself, say 10 things you like about yourself and 6 things you do well?
So with that being said, I actually do that with my daughters.
I love it.
Do that when they're having a bad day. We do 5 things because 10 things becomes weird with little kids. Or,
right.
It's like, oh, you know, like, it's like, and now that my oldest one is a preteen and we've got a hormone, so I'm like, okay, like, stop for a minute. Let's breathe and let's think about 5 things and like, let's come back. You know, I want her to be having, I want them both, and to have skills that are going to keep them and help them throughout life, because I didn't have those skills. And honestly, I don't think a lot of parents had those skills.
No.
So when I was growing up, they didn't know, and then me, and then I sure as heck didn't know. And so now I feel like I have, I don't want to say a wealth of knowledge, but just a lot more tools in my bag to give my, you know, daughters as healthy role models and healthy ways of living. And just instead of, you know, it's really easy to go negative. I think with this world, it's very easy to go negative, especially with what's going on in the last year and a half. And so it is tell me 5 happy things, and let's focus on that, because that's what's going to get you to your perspective change, your cognitive.
It's going to keep you mentally healthy, mentally uplifted, maintain peace of mind, keep you free of hate, keep you free of anger, right? You teach them forgiveness to keep them free of anger and hate. You teach them how to love themselves and look for the good in themselves to keep their self-esteem boosted, right? Yep. You teach them harmony in the relationships.
Yep, and it all comes from your, you know, the way you think. And unfortunately, at the time, I was, you know, I don't want them, because of where I was, I don't want them. Nobody wants that for their kids. But it's, so we do the 10 things. I got that from you. We do the 5 things I do the 5 things with them. Sometimes it's a little bit more well received, because when you're in a bad mood, you don't think about 5 happy things, and then, you know. But hey, by the time we talk about it, guess what? Their mindset has changed, the attitudes change, and we can have a discussion about, you know, whatever was bothering them on a different level. And that's important.
It's awesome.
So
it's awesome.
And all those, and finding the self-esteem, which is really interesting. is that I'm doing things now, 9 years later, that I definitely didn't think I was going to be able to accomplish, 9 years ago or 5 years ago. I mean, the more that I took what I learned and what we worked on, and I just, like I think when you and I stopped seeing each other, I had like a pretty good basis, but I took all of those tools and I just built off of it. And now, like, I'm graduating nursing school in August.
Awesome.
And I'm going to start my own. There's all these things that I'm going to be doing, and I see it happening. And it's very much, 9 years ago, Michelle was not wouldn't have even been able to, take a footstep in those directions.
And that's all from self-esteem too, don't you think, Michelle? Like you said, once you start loving yourself and once you start realizing like all your good qualities and all the things you're capable of, then you do things that manifest that. Like you said, healthier relationships. You went and bought your own car. I remember the first time you had that goal to go buy your own car. When you first came to me, you're like, look, I just want to get through today and wake up and just get through today and be a mom. And then the more you love yourself, the more self-esteem you get, the more you use these skills and strategies. Next thing you know, you have a car. Next thing you know, you're working hard and you're being successful at your work because your relationships are better. And now with that job, now you buy a townhouse. Next thing you know, now you're in another healthy relationship, and now you're graduating from nursing school, and all the things you think in 2012 you just can't even imagine. You just want to get through that day. These are all the benefits that happen from gaining the self-esteem.
I think when I started seeing you, it was like, okay, get through the day. And then it was like, I remember telling you, because, when we left, I literally left with the two suitcases of stuff and like $2,000 into my name. Like, and I was starting completely over in a different state, no job, not even a job perspective.
Right.
And I, got a really good job and was working there, and then I got like an even better job with like making more money. Like all these things started happening. And then I remember like I got my car. I told my my kids, I was like, we're gonna get a car, a new home, and then I'm gonna buy you a puppy. And I did all those things. I mean, all of those
so
things
awesome.
happened.
Awesome.
And John and I started having communication issues. Just all the things that was going on. I started having, I don't want to say the best communication, but I started setting boundaries with John on communication, so it started to get better. I wasn't getting wrapped into because I didn't feel the need to, because when my self-esteem was starting to get better, I didn't feel the need that I had to, and I started loving myself. I started loving myself. I started feeling good about myself. I started dealing with all the pain of the past, and even with John, that I didn't feel the need to engage in the way before. Like because I wasn't angry, I wasn't mad, I could stop the conversation or set the boundaries and then not engage. Because I didn't need to validate I didn't need him to validate me, I validated me. So like, I don't need to talk to you and get your validation. I don't need to talk to you and get your respect. I don't need to talk to you to try to get your love. I respect, I validate myself. So this negative, all that stopped. And
that's the key.
Yes, but that worked even with my mom. It worked with all my relationships to this day. To this day, it's set in stone. And it's an amazing thing, because I get to model that for my kids now, and they get to have the same boundaries and hopefully be healthy.
That is wonderful. Wow. I always love it's so awesome to reconnect with you and just hear the journey of from 2012 to 9 years later, all of the amazing progress that you have made and the skills that you learn. And thank you for sharing with our audience too, so that they learn, because honestly, everyone in life, if you live long enough, probably before you even become an adult, will deal with hurt. And so that is so key. How do we heal from hurt, right? How do we heal from it so we don't continue to hurt other people and we don't continue this pattern over and over? And do you remember me mentioning the word to you, damage control? The first thing you have to do is you have to stop the hurt.
Oh God, I think that was like the first 3 months, like not even. I just remember being like, okay, like you would just, the look on your face when you said it, and then when it starts resonating, I'm like, I know we have damage control. Like I think I came to you on one session when it finally started, because I was seeing you weekly, very, very weekly. I remember I came in and was like, okay, there's some damage control, and the look on your face was like, okay, well, I think you were just surprised that like I had admitted it, like I knew. What I had done, like I could recognize my own behavior. Like I think it was like, oh, okay, so like we're making progress.
Yes, yes.
Yes, a lot of damage control. We still use, I call them Elizabeth phrases. I still use them. So,
yeah. And damage control for the audience means like, kind of like what you're saying. If you're continuing this pattern, like with John, like you were super hurt, you would say mean words, then he would be reactive and say mean words, and here you are in this, and you're continuing to damage the relationship, damage the respect, damage the communication. Damage control just basically means when he starts and says something mean, this is where you stop and you either hang up the phone, walk away, take a break, and so that mean words don't keep coming out of your mouth. And I remember many times you come into counseling and you say, really what I need to learn is to manage my mouth. If I could just, like almost if we imagine, if I could just put tape over my mouth sometimes when this person who has deeply hurt me is talking, or else I could just remove myself and walk away or hang up the phone. That is what damage control is, right? And it just reminds me of that proverb that says, he who can manage his tongue is better than he who can take a city, which goes to show you how many of us, who has never been in that situation where you're like, oops, I shouldn't have said that. Oops, I wish I didn't yell. Oops, I wish I would have walked away or hung up the phone then, right? Because now you have more hurt to deal with. And so that's another thing, is you being so aware. You were so delightful to work with, honestly, Michelle. Super smart, learned stuff quickly, got it quickly, put it into practice quickly, and then it's just so amazing to see how 9 years later you're living your best life. You're in a healthy relationship. Your kids are thriving. You're doing great. Yeah, you're getting married. Congratulations with that.
Thank you. And my daughters are doing amazing in school and friendships. They're really, they're normal kids, but they're not. I see other children, and it breaks my heart where their parents are kind of going through the same thing, and there's definitely like, they didn't have to go through that. They're not living with it, and it does. I'm so grateful for that, because I love my children. I love my children very much. And being a good mom, because I didn't have that, was so important. And I wasn't really able to be a great mom until having to deal with all that. Like, they don't have to carry or deal with my burden.
Yeah. Our kids too, right? If I'm hurt...
And unintentional.
Yes, unintentional, totally unintentional. We don't mean to hurt people we love with our words, but the thing is, if hurt is inside of us, then it's going to come out of us and hurt more people. So awesome. Thank you again. It was so wonderful to reconnect. Thank you for taking time to share your story with me and your success.
I appreciate it.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Good Things from the Couch, where we realize we are not alone in our emotional struggles, and that we can heal and we can overcome difficult thoughts, difficult feelings, difficult behaviors, difficult circumstances, and we can heal and overcome hurt. Michelle is witness to this, and she is living a life of dealing with overcoming a lot of hurt. Thanks again for tuning in. May good things continue to happen to you from the couch.